Yo, it's Finnegan. How you guys doing? Today's going to be an awesome day. Want to know why? Because I've partnered with Miller Welders once again to show you guys a brand new machine that you can win. That's right, at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you how you can enter to win the brand new Miller Welders Multimatic 220 AC/DC, and trust me, this is a machine you're going to want in your home garage. Why? Because it's a MIG welder, a TIG welder, a stick welder that welds in both AC and DC modes. So whether you've got to weld aluminum, stainless steel, regular old cast iron, whether you need to use solid core wire or flux core, this machine will do it, and best of all, it runs off 120 or 240 volts. So no matter what kind of power you've got in your garage, this machine's going to work perfect. Now is the perfect time to test a new machine because I have lots of things in my garage that need welding. First off, my dad was out doing wheelies on his bike and broke the handlebars. Second, Blasphemy needs a new puke tank, and I don't want to fab an entirely new mount off my radiator, so I'm just going to add some aluminum to the existing mount. And I'll TIG weld that together and show you that here. And lastly, my buddy Matt has a lifted Chevy Blazer with a removable roof, and he wants to go out cruising next summer with his wife and young son in there without fear of getting hurt should the thing ever land on its lid. So I bought Matt a Rollcage kit. Didn't tell him. And honestly, the photo on the internet was about that big, and when it arrived here, it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. So we're going to modify that while testing out the 220 AC/DC. And by the time we're done, all these projects will be welded together, and Matt, his wife, and his young son can go out cruising in their Blazer without fear of getting hurt. Much. That's not to scale. The color's almost right, though. He's a ginger. Yeah. Looky. No more wall in the garage. That's right. Took your guys' advice. Put a beam in, walls out. So much room here in Finnegan's garage. And today, putting a roll cage on my buddy Matt's Chevy Blazer. Just as soon as we get it in the garage, because it's a little bit of a tight fit here. I think though that's the move right there. Flatten the tires and it should just clear the garage door. Oh yeah, that's totally gonna work.
Oh yeah.
20 or 30 minutes from now.
Yeah, I should probably do this a little quicker.
It'll be in the door.
Yeah.
So essentially this kit is 2 bars,
Same.
2 kickers on the sides, 2 kickers on the rear, and that's it. There's no X, there's no door bars, there's none of that stuff. So we'll add whatever we feel like we need to make it feel a little safer for Matt's young son and his lovely wife. So here's our kit. I found it on Facebook of all places. And again, like I said, I'm not going to tell you where I bought it from because I question the structural integrity of a 3-piece main hoop. And we're going to use it, but I'm not going to barbecue these guys, especially if indeed this thing isn't, you know, so bad and you can do this safely. So the way this works is there's a bung that slides in there. You'll grind an angle on each seam, drill a hole in each end and rosette weld it and weld the seam right there. Show me the point of concern.
Well, the kit came with these. And in your scrap pile, we found these longer ones. So, I feel better using these.
Spread the load out a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, because that's my worry is that, you know, the seam will be strong, but the ends of that bung are where this thing could have an issue. What do you think?
Honestly, I think a single bar would probably be stronger, but I don't know.
You're like, it's good enough for who it's for?
Sure.
Sorry, Matt. Last year I gave away the Multimatic 215, and the 220 AC/DC is very similar and yet way more powerful and flexible. Now in terms of input voltage, the same rules apply. Whether you have 120 or 240, switching is as simple as unthreading one plug and threading on the other adapter. The machine knows what kind of voltage it has coming in. It will adjust accordingly. In order to start welding on this machine, all you have to do is set this style to what you're welding and what kind of shielding gas you have in there. So for right now I have MIG steel C25, alright? So that's set there because I'm going to be MIG welding mild steel, and I have a 75-25% argon CO2 mix. You come over here, this is for material thickness. All you have to do is go higher or lower with the material thickness. Right now it's set to 1/8 of an inch. There's 3/16. There's 14 gauge, and if you notice, every time I change the material thickness, it automatically sets the wire speed and the voltage for when you're MIG welding. The same applies for when you're TIG welding and stick welding. All you need to know is what your filler rod is, or wire, and the material that you're welding and how thick that is. It will set the current and voltage output for you. It's just that simple. You still have the chart under the hood here. You can still fine-tune this if you want, but if you're in a hurry to just get starting, or you want a surefire way to make a good weld, the machine does all the hard work and the figuring for you. So this is our main hoop. The boys have already cut the bung that goes inside. They've drilled a 3/8 hole here, and here, here, and here. Right now we're going to tack this together, test fit it in the car. When we're done, we'll weld right. When we're done, we'll weld right through those holes. It's called a rosette weld, and that's going to make this thing a little bit stronger. Okay. So smooth. This side too?
Yep. Move my side back and you can bring yours in.
Oh yeah, the top's only temporarily held in there. This is part of the reason Matt and I are such good friends. If you look close,
Yeah, get yours past
zip ties are what's holding the top to the side. Man after my own heart. The Multimatic 220 welds so good. Starts incredibly smooth. And I am not a great MIG welder, especially on round tubes, but this thing makes me look like a superhero. With the seats out, we get a whole lot better access here to the area where our main hoop is going to go. We're cleaning the factory paint off of the floors. These are 3/16 thick plate that we cut in the bandsaw. Go around the corner here, and this is going to be where our roll bar actually attaches to the vehicle. This is going to spread the load from that smaller round tube out to a wider area on the sheet metal, distributing the force should this thing ever roll over. Front hoop is in, floor plates are welded, and they look good, I might add.
Thank you.
Mr. Newbern, well played.
Main hoop is done.
I gotta admit, the 3-piece hoop just chaps my ass. Like, looking up there, I'm like, I don't want anyone to know I did that, but I get why they do it. You can throw it all in one box and ship it pretty easily.
It's better than nothing.
Oh, it's better than nothing. They are safer than they would be. So, top bar is tacked in place, rear hoop is together and in. We just need to make the floor plates back there, add our kickers and our other top bar, and it's essentially done. Are we going to take the top off and finish weld it? Or?
Yes.
Yes, we'll have to.
Alright, cool.
If the top will come off.
It'll come off. It's just held in by zip ties. Look.
Yeah, custom zip ties. They have washers on the zip ties though. Let's do.
Oh, Matt's no hack.
Yeah,
you
I mean
gotta
it's. I mean it's a seriously
You gotta do it right.
good job of zip tying.
Yeah, this is the SPF50. I mean, we're not half-assing anything on here. It's time to add some lateral support to our roll bar. We're going to do that by welding kickers into that floor plate that we just put in the middle of the floor. You can see one of them is already in place here. These are bars that didn't come with our roll bar kit. And right now my buddy Chase is going to walk us through how to figure out the length and angle of these bars before we chop them up in the hole saw here. So how'd you figure this out, Chase?
So what you want to do is you want to measure off of your floor plate to where you want to make your kicker end on your main hoop.
Okay.
And then off of that, you want to get your center mark for your floor plate, and or wherever you want it to end up at, wherever you want it to sit. And you will run your straight edge, and if you don't have a long enough one, you can use 2 rulers, just hold them square, and you'll run it up, and you'll take your angle finder, and you'll put it on there, and
Alright. And we were about 27.5 degrees.
So about 27.5 degrees. You'll subtract that from 90 degrees.
Okay.
And whenever you subtract that from 90, that'll be your angle that you need to notch your tubes to fit on your main hoop.
Here's another cool item I got from the guys at tricktools.com. Digital angle finder. This is from Wixie. It's relatively inexpensive. Very useful because it's got a magnetic base, right? So you can set it in all different kinds of positions, zero it out, and then say you need to land a tube on top of this surface here. All you got to do is pivot it and it'll tell you the angle that it's supposed to be at. Pretty straightforward. Alright, let's notch some tube. This is a manual tubing notcher being run off a cordless drill. And all we're going to do here is set our angle. And what did we figure out? 27.5 over there, so it's about 62.5. Yeah, 62.5 degrees.
Alright.
Our notcher actually has degrees marked into it. And a little pointer. And the key here is to notch one side, then measure the length of your tube to the other side, and cut and notch the other side.
Whenever this piece comes off of the tube, you want to back your hole saw out and take that piece out of the hole saw, because if you don't, it has the possibility to come through this hole right here and it'll catch on this other piece of pipe.
And then break my drill.
Yes.
Got it. Alright, let's not break my drill.
Or your wrist.
Oh, yeah. Your wrist too. I mean, that's important. Like, you know, bone breakage is important, but the drill's really important. So that's the piece you're talking about breaking it off.
Yeah.
Before you continue notching the tube.
A lot of times it'll come off here, and this piece will separate from this piece, and then that can shove up in there too.
Ah, okay. Got it.
Here's a quick tip. Chase just notched this tube, and you guys at home may be tempted to go test fit this in the car. Problem is right at the end of that tube, the material is really thin. If you look close, I'm just bending it with my finger, right? See that part right there? The very end? That's too thin. That's not what you want to weld to. So we don't go trial fit this to the other tube right now. We'll knock this edge off with a flap disc and then test fit it. Because otherwise, if you just throw this in there and by some miracle it fits perfect and you go to weld it, you're welding to really thin material. This tube is 120 thousandths thick. That's what we want to be welding to, the meat of it. We don't want to weld to the very thin edge there. Here's our fish mouth. It's already been dressed with a disc sander and it fits really good. And this is what you're looking for. See how it wraps around the tube there and you have minimal gap? That is perfect. That's what you're looking for. You don't want big gaps, especially if you're going to TIG weld something. If this was chromoly, you have to TIG weld that. And this is mild steel. We're going to MIG weld it, but even if you're MIG welding, the better the fit of the two tubes, the better your joint's going to be. So this is perfect right here. Now we need to address the other end that has to be trimmed and fitted down there on the floor plate.
So now that we've made our fish mouth up here, we're going to have to notch the bottom side to fit flat on this plate. And what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to measure from your longest point, which wherever you've measured where you want your bar to end up, It'll be the top of the tube here to the top of the tube here, which will be the longest point. You don't want to measure from the shortest because your bar will end up too short.
Okay, there's one of our kicker tubes. That didn't come in the kit. We made that ourselves, and that is what's going to give this roll bar support fore and aft. And there's what I was talking about before. That's the end result of good fit up and a really good welder. Look at that, SPF 50. Totally safe now. Rollcage kit is in, it is braced, it is gusseted. Matt and his family can now go out and enjoy their Chevy Blazer with the top down and 10 gallons of SPF 50 on their bodies. These are the handlebars off my dad's lowrider bike. No, I'm just kidding. These are the handlebars off his exercise bike, and apparently, dude's an Iron Man because he just straight ripped this apart. I don't know what kind of hills he was virtually climbing in his living room, but that's an aggressive break there. Not really. That's pretty thin wall, really crappy tube. And as you can see, the bracket that bolts to the bike's just welded to it flat right there. There's no gussets on the sides, which it really needs. So I'm going to grind the offending material off, remove the paint, and then add a gusset to each side of this deal, and then give it back to him and let him keep on trucking. And I'm going to use the TIG welding portion of the 220 AC/DC because, well, I don't want to spark all over the foam part of his handlebars, and maybe I can localize the heat here and not ruin this so much. Let's find out. I'm going to be using Miller's new Relic helmet. This thing's awesome because it includes the new clear light lens technology. This lens will give you a brighter and more vibrant field of vision when you're welding. The way it does it is it allows more colors in the spectrum to be viewable through this, so that the puddle is more defined, you know, from the things that are around it. And I see much better with this on without having any additional lighting focused right on the puddle. It's pretty amazing. And I've switched the welder on. We're in TIG mode. And another cool thing about this welder is even though I'm TIG welding right now, the MIG gun is still plugged into the welder, and both my argon bottle for TIG welding and my argon CO2 mix bottle are still connected to the welder. You can leave all that going and easily switch from one process to another without a whole bunch of messing around. So far so good. Starts up easy. It's a pretty smooth, stable arc. I like it. It looks pretty good. On the right, one of the mounts for Blasphemy's radiator. On the left, a scrap piece of 1/4 inch thick 6061 aluminum I've had laying around. I need a puke tank mount. Best place to put it is right off of the existing mount for the radiator, but rather than build an entirely new mount that incorporates that piece, which involves hole sawing all of these and drilling out all of these, I'm simply going to melt them together using science and the Miller Multimatic 220 AC/DC. This is old aluminum. It's very dirty. I'm going to clean it the best I can and weld it the best I can. Wish me luck. So I just got done TIG welding my dad's handlebars, and now I'm going to fix my radiator mount. So I'm going to use all of the built-in features of this machine and see how well it works. Right now we're going to push a button here and switch from steel to aluminum. When we do that, you'll see that inside it's going to change polarity. It's going to go from DC to AC all by itself. And right now, I'm limited to 1/8 inch thick material. If I push the button, it won't go any higher. And that is because I am plugged into a 120 volt wall socket. That won't do because this is thicker material. So I turn off the machine, unplug it, switch the connector, and when I plug this thing back into a 240 volt outlet, the machine is going to allow me to use the auto set feature and bump up the material thickness. The machine is now plugged into my extension cord, which goes to my 240 volt wall socket. Let's turn it back on. And when we come over here to the front panel, the input voltage automatically changed and expanded our capabilities, because now when I bump up auto set, look at that, 3/16, even 1/4 inch thick. Now we're talking. I'm going to stick with my 3/32 tungsten. That's what came with the machine. It'll work for this. I'm going to grab my pedal, clean my aluminum as best I can, prep the joint by beveling it here and here, and see how well this thing will weld. Okay, I've adjusted the settings on the welder, and the only other changes I've made to the setup here are I've rounded the tip of the tungsten here, and I've switched to a ERS 4043 rod in 3/32 diameter. Look at that. That is not bad. For a guy like me who doesn't weld aluminum all the time, and on a brand new rig, dude, I think I just fell in love. Before we give away this brand new Miller Welders Multimatic 220 AC/DC, we're going to show you guys how to build a main hoop out of one piece of tubing. Just, for no other reason to let you know, we're not hacks.
Right.
We can do this correctly. And step 1, make sure the tube you have fits the die you have in your bender. Step 2, clean it. Clean this off. Make sure there's no burrs on either end of it, because those are going to scratch the hell out of your die. And then when you progress to master level status and you start bending roll cages for Honda S2000s and everything's gold plated, you don't want scratches in your tubing. It's important. Gotta keep it fast and furious. Alright, so the next thing is to figure out what the radius of your die is. Get yourself a test piece like this one and figure out how far do you have to bend this thing to get to 90 degrees, and how much tubing does that eat up. Because as soon as you know those 3 pieces of information, you can build a main hoop. So what we're going to try to do here now is use our test piece to figure out how much tubing does it eat up to make a 90 degree bend using this die on this bender. This bender's pretty cool. I got it off Craigslist. Traded some tools for it. It is a hydraulic over electric bender. Uses a hydraulic pump right there. Real nice piece with a ball door motor. Connected to 120 volts AC and a compact unit to bend tubing. The only drawback to this setup is this is the world's loudest tubing bender. Trust me, it's horrible. So what you need to do is establish where the start of your bend is going to be. And that will be right here where the die meets the tubing, not necessarily here where the clamp is. Leave a little extra tubing sticking out the end, and we're going to bend this test piece to 90 degrees, take it out, measure our mark from the start of the bend to the end of the bend, and that'll tell us how much tubing it takes to bend 90 degrees. Alright, I guess turn on the loud machine.
Alright.
Oh god, this is gonna suck. Told you. Alright, so right now, our degree wheel, the pointer is just past 0. Because right now there's no tension on the tube. We've not actually started the bend. So Chase is going to start bumping the machine.
And you can spin the pipe.
What did I just do there? Alright, so Chase is going to start bumping the machine. You'll see it extend out here. And he'll rotate the pipe while he's doing this. Once he can no longer rotate the pipe, he knows there's pressure between the die and the pipe. And then he can zero out the degree wheel. If you just shove the tubing in there, zero out the degree wheel, what you'll find is that when the pointer gets to 90, you're not actually at 90 degrees. You'll be more like 80 degrees. Alright, so let's start bending. I don't remember how large the cylinder is in this machine, but it's not large enough to bend this 1 3/4 tubing to 90 degrees. So we'll back it up. Then we'll move the pin from the front of the die to the middle slot of the die. Then we'll extend the cylinder again. That'll get us closer, but not quite to 90 degrees. How far does this get us?
82.
About 82 degrees. Alright. So we'll take pressure off the cylinder again and back it up. Move the pin to the third hole of the die. And this part's unique because you're going to see this. If we bend it to 90 degrees and then release pressure off the machine, it's going to kick back. So right now we've moved it 90 degrees, alright? Now, if Chase releases pressure, you're going to see the end of the tube spring back. There we go, and it moved back. How much?
About a degree.
1 degree is not bad. So that's 1 3/4 mild steel. It sprung back 90 degrees, which means we need to go to 91 degrees.
That's right.
In order to allegedly get a true 90 degree bend. So let's go to 91. Alright. Then we'll take our tubing out, turn off the god-awful noise, and measure.
So what I normally do is I will take my 90 degree bend and I will mark both of my bends where the die bent the piece of tube.
Start a bend, end a bend.
And then what I'll do is I'll put it in the car and I will mark this mark on the side of the pillar.
Okay.
And then I'll mark this mark on the roof.
Okay.
And then after you do that, whenever you have your marks here on the roof, you can find the center of your roof. You'll measure from the center of your roof to this mark here.
Yep.
And the same on the other side. And they should be the same, of course. And that'll tell you where to bend your 90 degree bend at.
On your single piece of tube.
Yes.
Got it.
And that'll end up that'll make it to where both bars that come down off of the roof onto the pillar are as close as they can be to going all the way around.
Right. And the closer you can get the bar to the roof and the pillar, the further it is away from your head, your helmet, and all the things you want to protect.
Correct.
Cool. Thanks for the tips.
No problem.
Time for the contest. Here's how you can win this 56-pound inverter welder from Miller. First things first, head over to Miller Welders YouTube channel and subscribe. Trust me, it's worth it. Watching their videos is going to make you a better welder and teach you even more about the Multimatic 220. Second thing I want you to do, comment below. Tell me what are you working on in your garage and why you need a brand new MIG TIG stick machine. My favorite comment that I read over the next 7 days is going to win this. We're going to ship it direct to you, and then I want to see all of the awesome projects you're going to tackle in your home garage. Good luck.
No, here's how I introduce me. This is Cotton, you know. He's like a mini truck, hot rod guy. Like, that's the whole spectrum.
Yeah, it's everything.
like, oh, okay.
It's not autism, okay? You're not on a spectrum for some malady. You're a mini trucker. There's nothing wrong with that.